Hey, how y'all doing? This is 919 Truth to Sports coming to you with another segment. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get right into it. This segment is entitled, which I'll be doing after every game, what I learned about Coach Prom's coaching staff after the loss to Nebraska. We all know that they lost 28-10, so let me get right into it. Um, as a head coach, I felt like their Coach Prime, was out coached. He looked a little bit overwhelmed, just like the rest of the team did, especially in that environment. I think it was a little bit, as I said, overwhelming at first. And I, to be honest with you, I could feel the energy through the television. I think I would have felt overwhelmed as well. That was a different type of crowd. That was a different type of college football show or entertainment. And moments in the game, throughout the game, to me, and I've always said this, he looked disengaged as he always does. No play sheet, no nothing. You rarely see him talking to the mic. He's basically just standing there watching the game as a spectator, and they kind of showed in the fourth quarter when he called that late timeout. He kind of let 12 seconds go off the clock before he called a timeout. If you saw the game, you know exactly what I mean. Um, and he just didn't look involved. Now I would love for him to at least have a play sheets, be looked interested, be talking to his coordinators, making sure he's on the same page with them, et cetera, et cetera. But it is what it is. I'm not really into his. I'm pulling for them, but I'm just not really into his coaching style of kind of just watching the game. So let me get right into it. I'm gonna get into the offense. The offense, the offensive coordinator slash quarterbacks coach. It's Pat Shermer. I'm also put in the offensive line coach, Coach Field, Loadholt, inside of in this segment. Um, to be honest with you, I believe that Pat Shermer's in an awkward position. I think obviously we saw him run mostly pass plays just like they did last year, which didn't work for them very well. It worked for Shador, but it didn't work for them as far as wins. So they're still doing that. We know as far as the offensive line, Shador was sacked 6 times by 6 different players. So kind of all the players were eating, as they say. Um, but I don't necessarily like to always blame the offensive line because when you're mostly passing the ball, the defense loves that, and they're coming straight downhill all the time, and it's hard to block that for a full game of stopping these guys from pass rushing. There was one interception thrown for a touchdown. Don't put that on the offensive line. That was just a decision that Shador made, and he rarely makes those type of decisions. Um, and again, I don't blame the offensive line like everybody else is doing. When you have they passed 40 times, they only rushed 26 times, and 15 of those times was by running backs. 11 other times was by the quarterbacks. So they were put in terrible positions, and I would like to see Coach Field put those kids, Coach Field and Coach Pat Shermer and Coach Prom to put those kids in a better position to block and be productive, especially while they're still gelling. But all these pass plays is not really going to work for the offensive line. I did not like that Shador threw the offensive line under the bus already. So in doing that, he needs to watch his relationship, or we need to watch the relationship between him and the line for the rest of the season. I did talk about that last year when they started putting the line down. I told everybody how it was going to affect the line, which it did. Next thing you know, Shador is taking them out to eat, being a little bit nicer to him, et cetera, et cetera. Coach Prom, apologized for what he said about them in the media last year. But my point is, they're already throwing the offensive line under the bus the second game in, and it's not fair to those kids because they're put in a tough position. They're all new players. They don't have any camaraderie. They don't have any chemistry. They're on a roll in a tough environment. They're throwing the ball 40 times. So when you really think about that, it's tough. So I kind of feel for them. So hopefully they change the play calling. I think the play calling was bad. There was no creativity. As we all know, there was no real running plays. Those running backs, I'm sure, was getting frustrated. The offense, to me, just looked basic and stagnant. They only put up 10 points with their top QB and the top first round pick in Shador. And with the receiving core that they have, I think that they should have put up more than 10 points. So overall, I get an offensive D for this game. We'll move on to the running backs coach, which is led by Coach Gary Harrell. He's just non-existent to me as a coach. I don't think it's his fault. I think that he's kind of handicapped by Coach Prom. But all the running backs since last year have left. So this is a whole new core, which says a lot about the coaching. If you ask me, now the running backs did go 11 carries for 42 yards and 0 touchdowns. The leading rusher was Hayden. He went 5 for 32 yards. He looked very good when he was in the game, and this was the guy that he talked about all summer. And anytime I will always say this, and I said it then, I just didn't create a segment. Anytime Charlie is beating people out and he becomes a starter, that's not good for your running backs room. Something is off, something is wrong. So, but Hayden looked the best. But the running backs had no influence on the game at all, and they haven't since last year. The leading rusher last year was Dylan Edwards with 321 yards, I think, for the season. So it's the same as last year. There's no excuse. They just won't run the ball. You hear Coach Prime and Shador say, well, the run is not working well. When you try 1 or 2 times and it's not working, that means you didn't want it to work. You don't always get 3, 4, 5 yards every time that you run the ball. And really, when you think about it, sometimes you just run just to take the pressure off of the quarterback, and you can guarantee he won't get hit that play. But it is what it is. As I said, the best option right now, I think, seems to be Hayden. But he may not play next game. He may be on an injury report next game. I would like to see Micah Welch, the 3-star athlete out of high school that they talked all about. I think you need to play him because I'm gonna tell you, he probably won't. If it stays like it is now and it's early in the season, he won't come. He won't stay there all his whole 4 years. So I didn't like their rotation as far as a running back. Like I said, anytime you're starting Charlie, who was a walk-on, and you start him, and he's beating all these other big-time guys out, something's wrong with that running backs room. So that is what it is. And to put into perspective, Nebraska rushed for 35 yards, 35 carries, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher went for 17 carries and 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. Colorado went for 22 carries, 16 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Their leading rusher went 5 for 32 with 0 touchdowns. So overall, I give this running backs room an F. I know it's not fair because they didn't get an ample opportunity, but we're talking about results, so it's not their fault, but they do get an F. No impact on the game at all. The wide receivers room, which is led by Coach Jason Phillips, they were led by Travis Hunter. He went 10 for 110 yards. The only touchdown came from LeJontay Wester late in the game. Will Shepard was very impressive, has a couple of good catches. I liked him a lot. Very good wide receiver. They were, they actually this is one of the few rooms that outperformed Nebraska. Colorado had 23 receptions for 244 yards and 1 touchdown. Nebraska had 23 receptions for 185 yards and 1 touchdown. So this wide receivers room looked very good. I don't know if they're elite like everybody says. I know they have elite speed, but they look very good. So Shador has a lot of options. Shador did throw to 6 different receivers. Nebraska threw to 7 different receivers, so that was about even. So overall, I give them a B plus. They look very good. And once they get everything down as far as blocking and everything, they're going to be very dangerous. And it doesn't have to always be Travis. They have a lot of guys that can be the man for them. Let's go into the defense. The defense is led by Coach Vincent. The defensive end coach is Coach Lewis. Then you got the defensive line coach, Coach Livingston. Robert Livingston is the safety coach. Then you have Coach Hart from the linebackers, and Coach Mathis for the cornerbacks. The defense was bad. They gave up 28 points in the first half. They recorded no sacks, no interceptions. Now in the second half, they didn't allow any scores at all, but by that time the game was over. And it's just like basketball. If you're up by 30 or 40 in the last quarter, I don't care what anybody says, you don't have the same intensity, you're not playing the same, you don't have the same killer attitude. So it looks like Nebraska was just coasting. And Nebraska could have easily put up, I think, another 20, 25, 30 points if they really wanted to. So the defense did not look good into the second half, but in saying that, in the second half the game was over. In the first game when it mattered, they couldn't stop anybody. So I gave them a D overall. The only reason they didn't get an F was because they did shut out Nebraska for the second half. The special teams or the kicking game, might have got one blocked, and he made one. But ever since they played North Dakota State University, he's been kicking very low. I know that was an issue for him when they was training by watching well-off media. So I'm kind of perplexed and while he's still kicking the ball low, he has to get it up high, and I hope he fixes that because that could really cost him. Feely missed a 61-yard kick, which I felt for him because I don't know, unless they know that he can make that from practice, I don't know why you would put a kid in that situation. 61 yards is almost like you're setting them up to lose. And as I said, coaches are supposed to be setting kids up to be successful. So he missed that, wasn't even close. Jimmy Horn did go 4 for 49 in kick returns. So overall, I gave them a C. I gave them a C even though they had a missed field goal and one block. That 99 in kick returns, you can't overlook that. So I'm actually giving them a D because it just didn't look good. And Mata is one of my favorite players, and he's been consistent since he's coming to college football. But him kicking the ball low is going to cost him because they are going to be in some close games. So as you know, the team struggled. They didn't look too good, but I'm not too worried because they was at Nebraska. Nebraska has taken another level with their team. So we're going to hope that Colorado gets everything back on track before they play Colorado State this weekend. So that's my breakdown of the game. After the game, for the most part, it's been Hunt 919, Truth to Sports, ride with me.
It's been Hunt 919, Truth to Sports, ride with me.